At my mother-in-law's birthday dinner in Florence, my seat was missing. My husband, Logan, chuckled and said, "Oops, guess we miscounted." As the family laughed, I calmly said, "Seems I'm not family," and walked out. 30 minutes later, they discovered I had canceled the entire event, the venue, the catering, everything. Their faces turned ghostly white. "Seems I'm not family," I repeated, my voice steady despite the earthquake happening inside my chest. The words hung in the air of that exclusive Florence restaurant as 12 pairs of eyes stared back at me, with expressions ranging from shock to poorly concealed satisfaction. Logan's light chuckle still echoed in my ears as I turned and walked away from the table, where there was no chair for me. The humiliation burned through my veins as I exited the restaurant, but not a single tear fell. Instead, I felt an eerie calm take over as I pulled out my phone and opened the event management app I had built my career on. I had 30 minutes before they'd realize what I was doing, and that was more than enough time. Before we begin, I want to take a moment to thank each of you for being part of this incredible journey. Sometimes the most powerful moments come when we finally recognize our worth. If you've ever felt like an outsider looking in, this story might resonate with you. Before we witness Rachel's journey from New York's premier event planner to a woman reclaiming her dignity in Florence, hit subscribe to join our community of readers who appreciate stories of self-discovery and unexpected strength. Now let's step behind the curtain of a marriage built on appearances. My name is Rachel Bennett. 5 years ago I was just Rachel Bennett, the founder of Elite Events, New York's most sought-after event planning company. I'd built my business from the ground up after putting myself through business school. Every elegant gala, every perfectly executed corporate gathering, every society wedding in New York had my invisible fingerprints all over it. My reputation for discretion, attention to detail, and ability to pull off the impossible made me the go-to planner for the city's elite. That's how I met Logan Whitmore, at the charity gala I organized for the New York Children's Hospital. Tall with perfectly coiffed dark hair and a smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes, Logan had the easy confidence of someone who'd never worried about money. He was charming in that practical way of men born into privilege, but there was something genuine in his interest in my work. "So you're the wizard behind all this?" he asked, gesturing to the transformed ballroom of the Plaza Hotel. "My mother has been trying to figure out who to hire for her charity function next month. I think I just found her answer." One job led to another, and soon I was regularly planning events for the Whitmore family. The Whitmores were New York aristocracy, with old money that traced back to banking and real estate. They had that particular brand of wealth that didn't need to show off. It was evident in the subtle quality of everything they owned and the ease with which they navigated their world. Our romance began 6 months after I started working for his family. Logan pursued me with the same determination he brought to his work at the family's investment firm. There were warning signs, of course. The way his mother, Vivian, looked at me with barely concealed disapproval when Logan first introduced me as more than his event planner, the casual comments about my humble beginnings, and the surprise in people's voices when they discovered I was dating a Whitmore. "You've done well for yourself," Vivian had said during our first dinner together as a couple, her smile not reaching her eyes. "Self-made success is so..." I ignored these signs because I was falling in love with Logan. He seemed different from his family, more open-minded, less concerned with lineage and status. When he proposed 11 months after our first date, I said yes, despite the nagging feeling that I was entering a world that would never truly accept me. The wedding was naturally the social event of the season. I planned much of it myself, unable to trust another planner with my own wedding. Vivian had opinions about everything. The venue wasn't traditional enough, the menu too adventurous, the guest list missing key society names. I compromised where I could, held firm where it mattered to me, and Logan played peacemaker, but I noticed he rarely contradicted his mother directly. After the wedding, the undermining became more systematic. Despite using my company for their events, the Whitmores constantly questioned my decisions, changed plans last minute, and took credit for my ideas. At family gatherings, my opinions were solicited, then my background in event planning was treated as a charming hobby rather than a successful business. "Rachel has such a good eye for these things," Vivian would say to her friends, patting my hand condescendingly. "It's almost like having a personal party planner in the family." Logan never defended me. He'd shrug and tell me later, "That's just how my mother is, you shouldn't take it personally." But it was personal, and it only got worse as the years passed. The opportunity to plan Vivian's 70th birthday in Florence should have been my crowning achievement, a week-long celebration in the Eternal City, culminating in a dinner at a Michelin-starred restaurant, overlooking the Colosseum. I threw myself into creating the perfect event, leveraging every contact I had in the industry. It was during this planning that I first noticed the cracks in the Whitmore facade. The deposits for venues were delayed, and vendors started calling about payment. When I mentioned it to Logan, he brushed it off, saying the family accountant was just being cautious with international transfers. But I saw the statements accidentally left open on his laptop: investments gone bad, properties mortgaged to the hilt, lines of credit maxed out. The Whitmore fortune was dwindling fast. Still, I kept planning, using my own company's credit line to secure deposits when needed. I told myself it was temporary, that Logan would explain everything once the birthday celebration was behind us. Then came the morning of our flight to Florence. Logan was in the shower when his phone pinged with a message. I never checked his phone, I'd always respected his privacy, but something made me look that morning. The message preview from V was clear on his screen. "Can't wait to see you in Florence. Have you told her yet?" My fingers moved without conscious thought, opening the message thread with Vanessa Blake. Logan's college girlfriend, the woman his parents had always adored, the woman they had expected him to marry before he met me. The messages went back months: plans made, a future discussed, and yes, a baby. Their baby due in 4 months. I took screenshots, forwarded them to myself, and deleted the evidence from his phone. I packed my bags, plastered on a smile, and boarded the flight to Florence with my husband and his family. Now, standing outside that restaurant in Florence, I made my choice. I wouldn't confront Logan before dinner. I would let events unfold, and when they did, I would be ready. Our flight landed at Fiumicino Airport, just as the golden Italian sunset painted Florence's skyline. I'd arranged private transportation for the entire Whitmore entourage. Logan's parents, Vivian and Henry, his sister Natalie with her husband Ethan, his brother Brandon with his wife Chloe, and 2 sets of aunts and uncles. The convoy of sleek black Mercedes vans waiting at the terminal should have impressed them. Instead, Vivian's first words, stepping off the plane, were, "I thought I'd specified the hotel cars, Rachel. These seem rather generic." I bit my tongue, as I had countless times before. The hotel had a scheduling issue. "These are actually from Lux Transport. They service most of the diplomats in Florence," I explained, but my words fell on deaf ears as she was already discussing something with Henry, their heads bent together in that conspiratorial way that always excluded me. The Hotel Dello Rose welcomed us with the 5-star treatment I'd meticulously arranged. Champagne flowed in the private lounge while bellhops whisked away our luggage. I'd spent months securing the perfect accommodations, selecting suites with the best views, arranging welcome baskets filled with Italian delicacies, and planning personalized schedules for each family member. Vivian barely glanced at her itinerary before setting it aside. "We'll just play it by ear," she said, waving away weeks of careful planning. "The family knows Florence quite well." Our suite was magnificent, with a terrace overlooking the Spanish Steps, fresh flowers in every room, and a bottle of Logan's favorite wine breathing on the sideboard. But the moment we entered, Logan's phone buzzed, and he stepped onto the terrace, speaking in hushed tones. "Work?" I asked when he returned. "Just some investment issues," he replied, not meeting my eyes. "Let's get ready for dinner." The welcome dinner I'd planned at a charming trattoria became the first clear sign of my exclusion. Somehow the seating arrangement shifted just before we arrived, and I found myself at the far end of the table, separated from Logan by his cousin and aunt. Throughout the meal, inside jokes flew across the table, and stories of previous family trips to Italy from which I'd been absent were shared. When I attempted to join the conversation about the week's planned activities, Natalie interrupted. "Oh, Rachel, we've actually decided to do some family shopping tomorrow instead of the Vatican tour," she said. "Family shopping?" I asked. "You know," Vivian interjected smoothly, "just some tradition we have." "You'd be bored, dear. Why don't you use the time to check on the birthday arrangements? That's your expertise after all." The pattern continued throughout the next few days. I'd wait to find Logan already gone, a hastily scribbled note about meeting his father for breakfast. The family would disappear for hours on impromptu excursions that somehow everyone knew about except me. Whispers in corners of the hotel lobby would abruptly stop when I approached. Dinner reservations mysteriously changed to accommodate old friends who happened to be in Florence. Friends who looked at me with barely disguised curiosity, as if assessing how I was handling what was coming. On the 3rd morning, opportunity presented itself when Logan rushed to meet his brother, leaving his briefcase unlocked. The documents inside confirmed my worst fears. Draft separation papers prepared by the Whitmore family attorney, dated 2 months early. The proposed settlement offered a pittance compared to what I was entitled to. And most damning of all, a script. An actual script, outlining how Logan would announce our impending divorce at his mother's birthday dinner, presenting it as a mutual decision reached amicably. My hands trembled as I photographed each page with my phone. There it was in black and white, the perfect staged exit of the unsuitable wife, timed for maximum public impact yet minimum social embarrassment for the Whitmore. Vivian's birthday wasn't just a celebration, it was to be my funeral as a Whitmore. Instead of confronting Logan, I channeled my anger into methodical documentation. Each day I made excuses to return to our suite alone, searching for more evidence. I found bank statements showing massive withdrawals to offshore accounts, email printouts discussing the liquidation of assets before the situation became public, and a handwritten note from Vivian to Logan. Once this unpleasantness with Rachel is behind us, Vanessa will be welcomed back properly. My professional mask remained firmly in place as I continued overseeing the birthday preparations. I confirmed floral arrangements, met with the restaurant manager, and approved the custom menu cards, all while collecting digital breadcrumbs of the Whitmore's financial house of cards. When anyone asked why I seemed distracted, I blamed last-minute event details. In reality, I was building my arsenal. The morning of Vivian's birthday dawned bright and clear. I woke early, slipping out of bed without disturbing Logan. The day's schedule was packed. A private morning tour of the Borghese Gallery, lunch at a vineyard outside the city, and then returning to the hotel to prepare for the evening's grand dinner. As the event planner, I needed to arrive at the restaurant early to ensure everything was perfect. I was in the hotel's business center, printing final confirmations, when I overheard Vivian's voice from the adjacent concierge desk. The dividing wall was thin, and her imperious tone carried clearly. "There will be 12 seats, not 13, she instructed someone over the phone. "I don't care what the original reservation says. The seating chart I sent is final." "No, that won't be a problem. The arrangement has been discussed with my son. His wife will not be staying for the dinner. A family matter, you understand. No need for question." My blood turned to ice as the pieces clicked into place. The missing seat wasn't an oversight or last-minute adjustment. It was the centerpiece of their plan, a public humiliation designed to make my exit look like my choice, rather than their orchestration. I closed my laptop, gathered my papers, and walked to the elevator with measured steps. Inside, I pulled out my phone and began making a new set of arrangements. If the Whitmores wanted a memorable birthday dinner, I would ensure it was unforgettable, just not in the way they had planned. I arrived at Ristorante Il Colosseo an hour before the other guests, as any good event planner would. The rooftop venue offered a breathtaking panoramic view of the Colosseum, bathed in the amber glow of sunset. I personally inspected every detail, from the hand-calligraphed place cards to the arrangement of Vivian's favorite white peonies and roses. The champagne was chilling, the 7-course tasting menu confirmed, and the 3-tiered birthday cake was a masterpiece of Italian craftsmanship. "Is everything to your satisfaction, Signora Whitmore?" asked Luca, the maître de perfect. I replied, knowing it would be the last event I would plan for the Whitmores. Despite everything, my professional pride demanded nothing less than excellence. I returned to the hotel to change into the midnight blue Valentino gown I'd purchased specifically for tonight. As I applied my makeup with steady hands, I studied my reflection. 5 years of trying to fit into a world that was determined to reject me had taken its toll, but not in the way the Whitmores might have hoped. Instead of breaking me, they had hardened my resolve. The Whitmore family had arranged to meet in the hotel lobby before departing together for the restaurant. I arrived precisely on time to find them all waiting. Vivian was resplendent in vintage Chanel, her diamond necklace catching the light. Logan's eyes widened slightly when he saw me, perhaps remembering what had attracted him to me in the first place. Or perhaps calculating how soon he could be free of me. "Rachel, darling, you look lovely," Vivian said, air-kissing near my cheeks. "We're just waiting for the car." The drive to the restaurant was short, filled with artificial chatter about the day's activities, from which I had been excluded. As we ascended in the elevator to the rooftop, Logan placed his hand at the small of my back, a gesture that once felt intimate, but now seemed performative for the benefit of the elevator attendant. The doors opened to reveal the stunning terrace I had designed, transformed into an elegant dining space under the stars. The Colosseum stood illuminated against the night sky, a testament to both grandeur and the inevitable fall of empires. "How fit." Vivian entered first, greeted with enthusiastic applause from the waiting family members. One by one, everyone moved toward the large round table I had specified. a table that should have seated 13. I followed behind Logan, who moved purposefully toward his assigned seat next to his mother. I approached the spot where my place card should have been, only to find nothing. No chair, no place setting, no acknowledgement that I existed. For a moment I stood frozen, the perfect tableau of confusion around me. Conversations continued as everyone settled into their seats, studiously avoiding my gaze. The waitstaff, who had confirmed the seating with me just hours earlier, looked uncomfortable but remained silent. "Is something wrong?" Vivian asked innocently, her voice carrying just enough to draw everyone's attention. "There seems to be a mistake," I said, my voice calmer than I felt. "My place setting is missing." The meticulously choreographed scene unfolded exactly as they had planned. Furrowed brows exchanged glances, Logan half rising from his chair, a performance of concern that never reached his eyes. "That's odd," Natalie said, examining the table. "Did someone count wrong?" Henry cleared his throat. "Perhaps there was a miscommunication with the restaurant staff." Then came Logan's line, delivered with practiced casualness, that made my skin crawl. He chuckled, actually chuckled, and said, "Oops, guess we miscounted." The family It wasn't loud or cruel, that would be too obvious, but it was filled with the gentle amusement of people sharing an inside joke. In that moment I saw it all with perfect clarity: the calculated humiliation, the public setting chosen to prevent a scene, the groundwork for stories they would tell later about poor Rachel, who couldn't handle the pressure of the Whitmore family life. My gaze moved slowly around the table, taking in each face. Vivian triumphant behind her birthday smile. Henry uncomfortable but complicit, Natalie and Brandon enjoying the spectacle, their spouses aware enough of the cruelty to look slightly ashamed but not enough to object. And Logan, my husband, the man who had once promised to stand by me against the world, watching me with detached curiosity like a scientist observing an experiment. I could have created a scene. I could have demanded a chair, exposed their plan in front of the waitstaff, made the kind of public display that would live in family lore for generations. That's what they expected, what they had prepared for. Vivian would comfort Logan over his unstable wife, and the divorce narrative would write itself. Instead, I straightened my shoulders, lifted my chin, and delivered the line that would begin my reclamation of power. "Seems I'm not family." 4 words. Simple, devastating in their truth. The smiles faltered. Logan's expression shifted from smugness to uncertainty. I had departed from their script. "I'll see myself out," I added, turning away with the dignity that had been my armor throughout my marriage. "Rachel, don't be dramatic," Logan called after me. Another line from their playbook. "We can fix this." I didn't respond. I walked through the restaurant, nodding politely to the staff who had witnessed my humiliation. In the elevator I finally allowed myself a deep breath. Then another. By the time I reached the street, my hands had stopped shaking. A small cafe across from the restaurant offered the perfect vantage point. I ordered an espresso and pulled out my phone. This was the moment I had prepared for. The 30 minutes of freedom while the Whitmores congratulated themselves on their successful ejection of the unsuitable wife. First I sent a prepared email to Luca, the restaurant manager, with instructions that had been agreed upon as a surprise contingency. A common practice in high-level event planning. Attached was proof of my authority as the account holder and event coordinator, along with confirmation of immediate payment reversal. Next came the calls, to the vineyard scheduled for tomorrow's lunch, to the private Vatican guide for the following day, to the yacht captain for the Amalfi Coast excursion, and to the villa in Tuscany for the final weekend. One by one I cancelled everything, transferring the deposits I'd made with my own company's credit line back to my business account. With each cancellation I felt lighter. The emails from Logan began arriving, first annoyed, then confused, then increasingly desperate as my tactics became clear. I ignored them all. 28 minutes after I had walked out of the restaurant, I finished my espresso and paid the bill. It was time for the final act. I stood, smoothed my Valentino gown, walked back across the street to witness the moment when Vivian's perfect birthday celebration crumbled around her. I entered Ristorante Il Colosseo through the service entrance, a route I had familiarized myself with during my earlier inspection. Luca, the restaurant manager, met me with a concerned expression. "Signora Whitmore, are you certain about this?" "It is most unusual." "I'm absolutely certain, Luca, and I appreciate your discretion." I handed him a sealed envelope. "This contains proof of the payment reversals and the cancellation of my company's guarantee for tonight's expenses, as we discussed. The Whitmores will need to provide a new method of payment to continue their dinner." Luca nodded solemnly. In the events world, Relationships were everything. I had worked with Luca on 3 previous occasions for other Boston clients visiting Rome, and he owed me favors. While he might find my request peculiar, professional courtesy dictated he comply. When should I inform them? He asked. I'll text you in 5 minutes, I replied. I'd like to observe from somewhere discreet. He guided me to a small alcove near the kitchen entrance with a perfect view of the Whitmore table. They were in the middle of toasting Vivian, champagne flutes raised high, their faces glowing with self-satisfaction. The first course had just been served, the imported Ostra caviar that Vivian had specifically requested. It had been almost too easy to dismantle Vivian's birthday. Most high-end vendors in the hospitality industry operate in a network of mutual trust and references. As the event planner who had made all the arrangements, and whose company credit line secured the deposits, I had the authority to make changes. The digital trail of emails, contracts and payment authorizations all bore my name and signature, not Vivian's or Logan's. My phone vibrated. A new message from Logan. Rachel, where are you? Stop being childish and come back. Mother is upset, you're embarrassing yourself. I didn't respond. Instead I texted Carmen at the Villa Bella Vista, where the family was scheduled to stay for the Tuscany leg of the trip. Carmen confirmed the cancellation, and wished me well, adding that my substantial tip to her staff would be refunded separately to my business account. My phone vibrated again, this time with messages from Logan, now arriving in rapid succession. The hotel just called. They said our reservation for tomorrow night is cancelled. What are you doing, Rachel? This is ridiculous. Call me immediately. This is not funny. Fix this now. I texted Luca, you may proceed. From my hidden vantage point I watched as Luca approached the table with 2 other staff members. He leaned down to speak quietly to Henry, who was seated at the head of the table opposite Vivian. The family continued eating, initially paying little attention to the interruption. Henry's expression changed first from polite interest to confusion, then alarm. He pulled out his wallet, speaking more animatedly to Luca. The manager shook his head apologetically, showing Henry something on a tablet. By now the entire table had noticed the disruption. Vivian set down her fork, her regal posture betraying the first hints of tension. Logan was staring at his phone, presumably reading my latest text explaining exactly what I had done. All deposits have been returned to my company account, all arrangements for the week cancelled. Your family's financial issues are about to become very public. Enjoy your caviar. The scene unfolded like a perfectly choreographed ballet of chaos. Henry stood, his face flushed with anger, or perhaps embarrassment, maybe both. Vivian's hand flew to her diamond necklace, clutching it as if for support. Natalie was frantically whispering to her husband. Brandon pulled out his phone, presumably trying to verify what was happening, and Logan sat frozen, his face drained of color. Unlike the others, he understood the full implications. He knew what I had discovered about their finance. He knew what would happen if his mother's society friends learned that the Whitmores could no longer cover a dinner bill, let alone maintain their lavish lifestyle. My phone rang, Logan calling now, not texting. I declined the call and watched as he stood abruptly from the table, nearly knocking over his chair as he stepped away to try again. This time, I answered. Rachel, he hissed, his voice a mixture of fury and panic. What the hell do you think you're doing? Seems I'm not family, I repeated calmly, so I'm not responsible for family celebrations. You need to fix this right now. Do you have any idea how humiliating this is for my mother? For all of us. I have exactly the idea, Logan, that was the point. His voice changed, desperation creeping in. We need to talk. I can explain about Vanessa, about everything. I'm sure you can. The problem is, I've seen the financial statements, Logan. I've seen the email. I know the Whitmore empire is crumbling, and I know you've been hiding assets offshore before filing for divorce. His sharp intake of breath confirmed what I already knew. He never expected me to discover these things. He had underestimated me, just as his family had from the beginning. Those were private, he said. Yes, they were, just like the text messages from Vanessa about the baby, just like the script from announcing our divorce at your mother's birthday dinner, just like the seating arrangement deliberately excluding me. Silence on the lawn. In the restaurant I could see the manager now speaking to the entire table. Several other diners were watching with undisguised interest. The Whitmore's humiliation was becoming a public spectacle, exactly what they had planned for me. Rachel, please, Logan's voice had lost all its aristocratic confidence. You don't understand what this will do to us. I understand perfectly, that's why I did it. We can work this out. Come back to the hotel, I'll meet you there in 20 minutes. No, Logan, I don't think we can work this out. I ended the call and stepped out from my hiding place. It was time for my final appearance. As I approached the table, 12 pairs of eyes turned to me, some angry, some fearful, all disbelieving. Vivian spoke first, her voice shaking with fear. "How dare you ruin my birthday?" I smiled, feeling a strange sense of calm. I learned from the best, I thought. "Vivian, after all, isn't this exactly what you planned for me? A public humiliation, an orchestrated exit. The only difference is I changed the end." Henry stood, his face reddening with indignation. "This is outrageous. You had no right." "I had every right," I interrupted. "Every contract, every reservation, every arrangement was in my name or my company's name. I simply adjusted the plans." "You'll regret this." Natalie spat. "When Logan divorces you, you'll get nothing." "That's where you're wrong," I replied, looking directly at Logan. "I have copies of everything. The offshore accounts, the hidden assets, the fraudulent business dealings. I'm sure the IRS will find it all fascinating read." Their faces turned ghostly white, as the implications sank in. In that moment I felt no triumph, no vindication, only a profound sense of liberation. I turned and walked away from the Whitmore family for the last time. I left Italy the next morning, upgrading myself to first class on a direct flight to Boston, using points I'd accumulated planning the Whitmores' previous vacations. The irony wasn't lost on me. Behind me, I left a family in crisis, their carefully constructed facade crumbling in real time. Through the hotel concierge, I learned that the Whitmores had paid for their dinner with Vivian's vintage Bulgari bracelet as collateral, until a wire transfer could be arranged by morning. Word had spread through Rome's high-end hospitality network that the illustrious American family was having payment difficulties. The remaining vendors I hadn't personally cancelled began requesting upfront payments rather than promises. My phone was flooded with messages, some threatening, others pleading. I read them during my layover in London, sipping Earl Grey tea in the British Airways lounge. "Henry, this is actionable. Our lawyers will be in touch." "Natalie, you've made the biggest mistake of your life." "Brando, did you really think you could humiliate our family without consequences?" Vivian's message was the most revealing. "I always knew you were common. This vindictive display only proves what I've said from the beginning." But it was the succession of messages from Logan that told the real story of a family in free fall. First, "You have no idea what you've done. My father had a minor heart episode." "Is that what you wanted?" "Then the Prescotts and Whitmores saw everything." "Do you know what this means for our standing?" Later, "The hotel is demanding payment for the entire week up front. They say all guarantees have been cancelled." And finally, "Please Rachel, I need to talk to you. It's about more than us now." I didn't respond to any of them. Instead, I forwarded the financial documents I'd gathered to my lawyer with instructions to hold them securely until needed. If the Whitmores pursued litigation, I would be prepared. When I arrived home at our Beacon Hill brownstone, I hired a moving company to pack my personal belongings. I took only what was unquestionably mine: clothes, jewelry I'd purchased myself, my collection of first edition books, and the artwork I'd acquired before our marriage. Everything else, including the wedding gifts and items purchased jointly, I left behind. I wanted nothing that could tie me to the Whitmores' web of deceit. 2 days later, the Boston Globe published a small item in their society section titled "Investment Group Faces Inquiry." The article mentioned financial irregularities and questions from investors. While it didn't make the front page news, it was enough to send ripples through Boston's social circles. Logan appeared at my new apartment, unannounced 1 week after I returned from Rome. He looked haggard, the polished veneer of privilege replaced by genuine desperation. "You need to come home," he said when I opened the door. "This has gone far enough. This isn't a negotiation tactic, Logan. This is divorce," I said, standing firm. He stepped inside without invitation, running his hands through his disheveled hair. "The SEC is looking into father's account. 2 board members have resigned. Mother had to cancel her charity gala because 3 major donors pulled out." "That sounds like a Whitmore family problem," I replied. "Not mine. It's your problem too. If I go down with the ship." He trailed off, his voice almost pleading. I allowed myself a small smile. "Not when I have proof that you deliberately excluded me from financial decisions, and hid assets with the intent to defraud me in divorce proceedings. My lawyer assures me that's enough to protect me." His facade cracked completely. Then Logan sank onto my couch, head in his hands. "I never wanted it to be like this," Logan said, his voice cracking. "What did you want, Logan? For me to marry you for my event planning skills? To use me to manage your social calendar while you reconnected with Vanessa? To discard me when I was no longer useful?" It wasn't like that in the beginning, he said quietly. I did love you, but not enough to stand up to your family. Not enough to be honest about your affair. I sat across from him, feeling strangely calm. When is the baby due? I asked. His head snapped up. How did you? 4 months. According to the texts I saw. Congratulations. A heavy silence fell between us. Outside, the rain began to tap against the windows of my new apartment, smaller than our brownstone, but mine alone, paid for with the proceeds from a business I'd built without Whitmore money or connections. I'll give you whatever you want, Logan finally said. Just hand over those documents and sign an NDA. Name your price. That was the moment I realized the Whitmores still didn't understand me at all. After 5 years, they still saw me as someone who could be bought. Someone motivated by the same material concerns that drove their existence. I don't want your money, Logan. I said. I want my freedom. I want the truth acknowledged. I stood up, signaling the end of our conversation. The documents stay with my lawyer unless you try to drag me down with you. The divorce terms are simple. I walk away with what's mine, you with what's yours. And Vanessa, the baby. His voice was barely audible. That's between you and your conscience. I hope you'll be a better husband to her than you were to me. After he left, I stood by the window, watching the rain intensify. The scandal unfolded gradually over the following week. The Boston Globe ran a more extensive piece on the Whitmore Investment Group's financial irregularities. Longtime clients quietly withdrew their portfolios. Vivian's position on 3 prestigious charity boards became emeritus rather than active. Vanessa's pregnancy became public knowledge when she was spotted at her obstetrician's office, wearing an engagement ring. The timeline made it clear that their relationship had resumed long before our marriage ended. In Boston's high society, infidelity might be tolerated if discreet, but such blatant misconduct violated the unspoken code. My business thrived despite or perhaps because of the scandal. Clients who had once looked down on me now appreciated my discretion and integrity. The story that circulated wasn't about a woman scorned, but about a professional who refused to be used and discarded. 6 months later, I received an invitation that made me laugh out loud when I opened it. A request to bid on planning Vivian Whitmore's next charity event. Apparently, desperation had overcome pride. I declined politely, citing a full schedule. The divorce was finalized without drama. The Whitmores focused on salvaging their reputation and finances, agreeing to my terms without argument. Logan and Vanessa married quietly, their daughter born 2 weeks later. I sent no gift. On the 1-year anniversary of that night in Florence, I found myself planning another event in Italy, a celebrity wedding on the Amalfi Coast. As I stood on a terrace overlooking the Mediterranean, phone in hand and vendors at my command, I realized something unexpected. I was happy, not despite the collapse of my marriage, but because of the Whitmores had tried to make me feel small, to reduce me to an accessory in their grand narrative. Instead, they had inadvertently freed me to reclaim my story. In losing what I thought I wanted, I had found what I actually needed, not acceptance from a family determined to reject me, but the courage to reject a life built on appearances. I raised my glass to the setting sun, toasting the missing chair that had shown me exactly where I belonged.